Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the session today. I'm Dr. Shravani Reddy. I handle clinical operations here at Medvarsity. I'd like to welcome all the participants. I already see some students and prospects chatting in the chat box. Hello to all of you. Connecting with us and joining for this webinar on the other side is Dr. Ratna Rao from Apollo Hospitals, Hyderabad. So she's saying hello to you guys. So before we go ahead with the program, we're going to discuss about the importance of infection control today, and the risk of not taking control on it is what we'll be talking about. Before I go on to the actual discussion, let me introduce our expert faculty a little more formally. Dr. Ratna Rao is a consultant microbiologist at Apollo Hospitals, Jubilee Hills, Hyderabad. She's also been the convener and the head for the infection control program at Apollo Hospitals for the last 25 years. And she's been a visiting scientist to Johns Hopkins, Baltimore for 3 months, and also has worked as the registrar at JIPMER also. She's been an active participant in many clinical trials, many global programs, antibiotic susceptibility programs, and many more clinical trials. She's also a member of many technical committees, like the Technical Committee for Accreditation of Clinical Laboratories in India, a member of Biosafety Committee of CCMB, so on and so forth. So we really have an experienced and expert faculty joining us today. Thank you so much, Dr. Ratna, for joining us. We're very glad and privileged to have you. Would you like to say hello to the students?
Hi, how are you all doing? Great that you have moved on to this program. Let's discuss and maybe you could ask some questions. Thank you, Shravani, for really introducing me so well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ratna. So for all the participants, and we have quite a number of registrations today, so we're still waiting for many of our students to join in. So before we go ahead into the formal discussion, let me just begin with the definition of infection control as I've framed and noted down certain points from the web. Infection control is the discipline concerned with preventing nosocomial or healthcare associated infections, a practical rather than academic subdiscipline of epidemiology. It's an essential, though often under-recognized and under-supported part of the infrastructure of healthcare. Infection control and hospital epidemiology are akin to public health practice, practiced within the confines of a particular healthcare delivery system rather than directed at a society as a whole. Now, anti-infective agents like antibiotics, antibacterials, antifungals, antivirals, and antiprotozoals are also discussed, and their resistance and susceptibility is also discussed. Infection control addresses factors related to the spread of infections within the healthcare setting. It could be between a patient and a patient, or from patients to staff, from staff to patients, or amongst the staff. It also includes prevention through various methodologies that Dr. Ratna will go ahead and explain and talk about ahead, like hand hygiene or hand washing, cleaning, disinfection, sterilization, etc. It also includes monitoring or investigation of demonstrated or suspected spread of infection within a particular healthcare setting, like the surveillance and outbreak investigation, and management or interruption of outbreaks is also part of infection control discussion. It's on this basis that the common title being adopted within healthcare is infection prevention and control. And like we've titled our today's session, we're going to talk about what are the consequences of inaction if we do not take appropriate actions as per these latest guidelines and updates for infection control in a restricted healthcare setting. So hospital-associated infections, they affect about 5 to 30% admissions, resulting in reallocated staff time, excess or lost bed utilization, or missed revenue for hospitals, and cost and mental agony for the patient as well. So infection prevention and control is the only solution for managing antibiotic resistance infections in a hospital care setting. So to know more about the details, I'd like Dr. Ratna to join us in the discussion. So Dr. Ratna, we'll start with hospital-associated infections and why they should be a concern today. We'll begin there.
Infection control has always been sidelined by the healthcare industry for a very, very long time. Imagine an air crash, immediately everybody wakes up and, sees where is the problem, and immediately they, try to work out what are the problems and how it happened and why it happened. But in infection, when it happens, there is a lot of time gap between the negligence or the omission of the healthcare workers and the outcome. So really the healthcare worker doesn't have the time to really see his role in making being a part of that infection, you know. So actually the healthcare workers are the most dedicated healthcare staff in the whole world in any services, because they spend the time, they're always with the patients, they're always positive about an outcome. But if you see infection control, it is always nowadays looked at as somebody else's job. But I feel today we should feel it's a part and parcel of our daily routine. Just as we do care for the patient, hand hygiene is part of our system. That itself suffers a lot of time. So that is where we lose out on giving good care for these patients. You know?
Right, Dr. Ratna. Also, now we've titled the session as what are the consequences going to be like for our inaction today. Now that's a very strong title. So one, of course, hospital-associated infections is the main broad topic of discussion here. Can you talk a little more about why are these infections, why should they be a real big concern today? Or maybe you want to talk a little more about antibiotic resistance, maybe then we can arrive at why should this be a concern?
We have misused, overused antibiotics over a very, very long time. So the result of it today, we have really gone back to the pre-antibiotic era. We have no antibiotics in the pipeline, and we don't have any antibiotic to treat a young boy. Suppose he comes with an accident and stays over 10 days in a hospital setup, and he gets an infection with MDR, organism. We can't save life today. As before, we used to be able to save with just with penicillin itself. But now it is a far cry. We don't have any method or any of the armamentarium to treat a patient except go back and do a good practice of clinical practice of how we deliver care. Because preventing infection rather than control has become the slogan of today, that we have to make sure that we prevent one patient from getting. Suppose a patient comes with a CA for a CABG and he gets the open chest with infections. Who is to be blamed? We ourselves have to be blamed for the mishap or the negligence which we have gone through. It has a lot of impact on the patient, on the hospital to start with. They lose on the number of days for the patient. More than 5 days is a waste for the hospital because they incur so much cost. The cost of the antibiotics goes up. The ALS, that is the length of stay of the hospital of the patient, goes up. So we really don't benefit from our patient overstaying. And for the patient, it's a mental agony. He shells out so much money when he comes in. He came for something very, very simple, and he goes back with infection, which makes him stay, morbidity, mortality, and mental torture for so many days, which he works with. So it's a big, big, issue for us today, that to prevent infections with especially MDR is the cry of the day. And all of us have to wake up and say, yes, we are going to do something about it.
Right, Dr. Ratna, and that's a very critical point that you've mentioned. Looking at all the advances in medicine and pharma and everything, there's a strong stigma, and everybody is confident today more than ever. I'm talking about the normal people here. Laymen think that we are in the best possible times in terms of science and medicine and advancement in medical field. But you've just mentioned we've actually gone back to the pre-antibiotic era. And I totally agree, because today we ourselves, now I've worked with hospitals, how my own faculty or my own consultants would shy away from repeatedly visiting a patient, citing the same reason. We don't want to unnecessarily give it anything. So it's okay. If he's doing fine, we don't want to revisit him. It's that scare that we have come to, and the resistance is really high. The second line and third line antibiotics have also become resistant to many of the patients today. So it's definitely a risky thing. But I think the more emphasis has to be on educating our own community about the need for being updated on these guidelines. Being a clinician myself, Dr. Ratna, and my friends and my colleagues, we could have had some sessions and workshops earlier maybe, but not regularly or not updated on the current guidelines. Could you talk about how the hospital-acquired infections, now definitely they can only be prevented, we can only target at prevention rather than cure. How should our own healthcare community and the juniors who come in, should be trained. Are there any workshops and programs that you guys do or advise how frequent one should be updated?
See, it is in healthcare, it is very, very well known that it's a lifelong learning. It's absolutely a lifelong learning. Every day is a learning for everybody. They have to be open to any of the updates. The problem with the system is they have learned it about 20 years back. For example, I'll tell you about antibiotics. We have learned it in our college days when we were only students. Nobody goes back to have an update on pharma. I mean, to understand the drugs. So it is only the reps which give you the information and the clinicians start treating. So we have a very, very limited methods to update ourselves. It is very, very important to keep update of science and the amount of, the flora and the fauna around the place. You be aware of the basic needs of delivering good care. These are extremely important for others and we should be open. The problem is not getting guidelines or putting guidelines in place. It is a question of implementing, getting it done. There is a big gap between the will to do and doing it itself. If we are able to generate that will to do, I don't think we need to have any classes. And everybody will look for adult learning, look at avenues where they can update themselves. But unfortunately, we don't create a scenario. We are so wrapped up in intervention that we don't realize that there is a prevention method also. So it is very important to update ourselves. There are enormous sites available for updating ourselves in terms of how we want to look at how we want to deliver. Now, over time, the methods of delivery of care have not changed. It is not changed. Only thing is we have become very relaxed. We have become very, very, not bothered about what's happening because nobody is auditing, nobody is checking. And it is passed on for generations. If there's a neglect, it's taken as a part of the routine. So hand washing, for example, I'll tell you, you won't believe from 1842 we have been talking about hand hygiene. Still we talk about hand hygiene. Why are we doing? We are actually going back to, where we are not able to implement ourselves. Can you imagine not brushing every day? We all brush because we feel the need to brush. It has been drilled down to us. But in our healthcare, why are we not looking at hand hygiene? Because 50% of the infections occurs because of hands. And if we don't really do a good hand hygiene in a healthcare, we are at a loss of why we are not able to implement. And extremely implementing, getting doctors, clinicians into the system is another big area because they feel they are far above this and it is somebody else's job. That is why we have come to a stage where there is no antibiotic. It's be it all healthcare workers in contact with the patient have to do with basic information. They have to do hand hygiene, do a standard precautions, take care of themselves at the same time delivering care, make sure that others don't get infected. So there are ample number of sites available to get this into the system. We ourselves have a course which has been, for a month, and we do give it good basic information of how to go about educating yourself. And refreshment and getting it updated is extremely important. Every healthcare worker, be it a nurse, be it paramedics, be it a doctor, must inculcate that knowledge that yes, I must update myself. And it is us, we who have to do it, not anybody else. It is a patient care which we have to deliver. And I feel everybody should generate that, will I must do. Then only it will happen. Unless that happens, nobody can change. And it needs a lot of behavior change in our system because we have become laid back.
Right, Dr. Ratna. And when we talk about healthcare, and now we're discussing about infections and infection control, any words around infections, infection control and diseases and microbes, suddenly there is an understanding, people think it's something got to do with the doctors or the clinicians. But healthcare is not just about doctors. Any healthcare setting like the one the corporate you're part of, there's so many healthcare professionals part of the entire system, and each one is equally important and liable when we talk about infection control. So this program or this discussion is not just for clinicians, but anybody who's part of healthcare or who can upscale themselves and all. You mentioned our program also here. So would you like to address, Dr. Ratna, that who all should be getting trained or whatever that is, whichever program that is, who all should be trained in infection control and get them updated by the current guidelines and all? Who should be doing it?
Actually, all strata of people should get updated. And also there should be a very good update, a refresher method to, make them understand and make them to really do ground level work. It can be stratified into, the doctors, it can be stratified into paramedics, like physiotherapists. We are not doing those, physiotherapists, technicians in the OT, also the ICU technicians, or the dialysis is another area, endoscopy. All these basic principles for the nurses and for the housekeeping. If we tailor-made each of the status to emphasize on their role and how they can prevent, the basic principles remain same. So universally, we should be able to deliver some basic knowledge of how to do it. There are a couple of things which are very important in a basic information which every health giver must know, whether it be a housekeeping, whether it's be a clinician. First one is hand hygiene. Second is standard precautions, taking care of the contact precautions or additional precautions. And other thing is waste management, prevention of needle stick injury, and environmental cleanliness. Hospital hygiene is also never addressed. These are things which should be addressed because you can decrease the burden. So if these 5 things are very clear to everybody across the facility, I think we have done a good job. I think we have done a very good job. Now, how to do it? It is mostly the clinician and the nurses are targeted because they are the maximum load of people who come in contact with the patients. So all the courses which are made emphasis only on these 2 strata, more on nurses. So over time, everybody thinks it's a nurse's story. Nurses has to take care of it. But no, it is every healthcare worker. So it is important that you tailor-make it to your institute of how to deliver this, because healthcare, housekeeping needs a different type of communication skill to be given and grounded, very practically explained to them. So if we have a very good program for basic, principles for housekeeping, it will be great. Nursing, of course, we take it for granted. Again, nurses, that should be different because those who work in the ward are not so stressful as the intervention is in the ICU. So you can emphasize on a basic module for the nurses and a very advanced nursing for the ICUs, because the stress and the interventions are more, the care is more important, and emergencies. These are areas which we can really make a difference. We can emphasize depending on the cadre what is important and make it tailor-made for them and convey it in a method which they understand, in a language which they can understand and they can implement. Other thing which is very important is to audit. So have some monitoring mechanism to say that you are doing it well or you're not doing it well. So if you have some audit methods, get a number out. It's extremely important to have a number out. Unless you have number out, nobody knows where you are. Some, few, none doesn't have any meaning. In our situation today, we need numbers, either 10, 15, because if you have a number, then you can come down on those numbers. So it is very important to quantitate and do it well in comparison to everybody with the system in place. And everybody, another problem with is we never own up. We never own up that there's a problem. That's where we suffer, and we don't have authenticity of surveillance data in our system. So we really have a big problem of not getting, we are not truthful to ourselves today, We just want to care and then just it, because we are not yet under audited or given a networking where we have to give values of our HAIs, to any authority. So everybody doesn't want to really put in an effort. It is extremely important to understand that we might be in that situation any day. So don't we want good care for ourselves? So we need to have realized that part of it.
Right. And I know that you have been a conveyor of the infection control program. There could be a lot of activities and things that you do within the program for the healthcare setting that you're part of, or maybe at large for other audiences. Can you just talk about what is it that you as the Infection Control Board target? Not the audience I'm talking about. What are the aspects that you target? What is it that you repeatedly do some workshops on? Or what is it that really important in the core of your board or the program?
I believe it's a teamwork. I believe that we have to work together, and I believe that everybody's job is everybody's business. I don't believe it's somebody else's job. I feel each of us, when we deliver care, we are contributing some part of it to a patient. So be anything, any area of work, infection control becomes important. Be it, a mortuary, be it an emergency, be it in the OT, everywhere some infection control aspects do come in. Yeah. So the best way to do it at work. I believe there's no point giving them, pages of protocols and telling them to follow. I feel if we can deliver simple, methods, what is important and how you can implement it. The biggest problem with our system is we can't implement what we know. There's a big gap between knowing and doing. So there we really suffer. So if we can do little job of making it work at the bedside, we have done a great job. So I think that is where we have to make it, and not write books or look at, sites which will give, and also make it tailor-made to yourself in an understanding way, and you make it known to everybody around the place. So it is not that, one person knows and nobody else knows. Everybody knows, but nobody wants to really make an effort to make it. So there should be some link to who can monitor and do it. So everybody has to feel the need. And I feel it's a beauty. Never penalize anybody for a mistake. Make him realize at that point of time what has gone wrong and make it better. Because nothing can be done what has been done. No. So what we have to do is make sure to sensitize them that you have done wrong. Make sure you don't do it again. Yeah. So you have to do it. And you have to come out with because adult learning is extremely different from school learning. Yeah. They are very, very clear of what they want, and they are always linking it to their profession and their situation. So we have to make it interesting. If you keep on telling classroom, it is only 5% absorption. So if you make it more, team play, role play, storytelling, if these are things which can really make a difference and make them. Other thing which is very extremely important is feedback. Immediately tell them that this is your number at this site. Can you do something about it? Never penalize or pinpoint at anybody. Carry them with you and make them understand, yes, we are going to do it. We are there to help you out, and nobody is going to be, penalized for something. So that's how it should work. And I have carried it. Sustaining a program in a hospital is just next to impossible, I tell you, because carrying too many people with you in a schedule which is very, very difficult, in a scenario which is very resistant audience, is extremely difficult. But it is possible. If you have to have a sustain, you have to have a person who will sustain it. You have to have a person who will take the team, who will, understand and make it work. And the aim of the whole team will be, I will do. So if this is done, I'm sure it's not difficult to make things work. With the constraints which we have of resources, nothing is, required extra apart from doing simple things well.
Yes, Dr. Ratna, I think from my own experience, the thing that I have observed is there's an infection control committee, a board with wonderful people on it, with a lot of activities piled up. They make up a lot of, things that have to be circulated. Some of them are posted. There's some workshops conducted. There's so much that happens within the board or committee that constitutes. But for a routine healthcare person, it could be a clinician or a nurse or anybody in the hospital, I think the biggest challenge that I have seen is the ignorance in most of us, that there could be a poster lying on the wall next to when I'm seeing a patient bedside about how it's important to sanitize my hand, and there I go and again, try to examine the patient bare hands, even though there is a sanitizer bottle hanging on the corner of the bed. I've seen this, maybe as a junior I might have done that now. So it's not about complaining, but I think the ignorance part of it, thinking that it's too small, or somebody might think, somebody down the lane, like a OT worker or a housekeeping person might think, how big a difference can I make by doing this? The doctor will take care and do it. I think the ignorance of it is the biggest challenge. So I can imagine what it's like for you in the committee trying to bring about everything. I totally agree that making protocols and guidelines is not going to take us anywhere. Those sheets are always plastered onto the walls everywhere, but still we go ahead and do the same things. But Dr. Ratna, it will be really interesting for the viewers today and for many more who will view this session today, that each and every one of us at any level of our practice as clinicians or any healthcare workers, it is important for us to be updated at that moment of time, because I think you'll be the right person to continue the discussion, that these guidelines and protocols change consistently, isn't it? They're not the same what 5 years ago. But I think all of us have to be brought out into those updated guidelines. And also, don't you think there's a need for updation regularly, continuously, rather than just once being updated? So what is it that you suggest for our viewers today, that they should take up a program or a training and get updated first, and then maybe rely on online learning or continuous guidelines or following things like that? What do you think they should do? Like somebody who's on the chat box today, who's contemplating, why should I be doing this training? Or is it really important what Dr. Ratna is talking about? Can you please address them? How can they go about with this training?
I always feel there should be an hunger for learning. And I always feel there should be, that zeal to do something better. If these two things are done, if they're there in everybody, then we'll start looking at, because there are enough number of, publications, news items which come into system. So hitting and getting Google and getting into that place is not difficult at all. The other thing is the basic principles don't change. Even though there will be protocols, there is a human body which has been there. There is an intervention which has been happening for a long time. It is only the mindset which has to change and make it work. I wouldn't believe it is ignorance. I believe it is the block of mind which will say that, I don't want to do it because nobody's checking. Even and other thing is, you have to have a role model who will do it all the time. So it comes from the higher up. So if everybody does it from the routine, everybody falls into the place. Now, if a clinician and the surgeon comes and doesn't even wash his hand and he starts dressing, don't you think the others will feel the pinch of it? Why am I doing? There, I always tell my sisters, please tell him that, sir, please wait 5 minutes, I'll go wash my hand. Don't tell him to wash the hand because he'll get angry. So you tell him, sir, please wait, sir, I'm going to wash my hand and come back. Then, he himself will feel. So I said, sir, just why don't you look at this hand rub? Why don't you do it before touching the patient? Take this, sir. So that's one way of dealing with the, difficult group, as I say, because it's a very difficult group and they don't want to get, an instruction from a junior person, even though they might feel the need. But you must take a chance whenever they have their own relative in place to make it known to them that how much havoc has been caused by just an infection. So play upon those type of things and make them come into the system to make it work. Unless you do that, there is going to be a lot of divide and say that I will not do, you can do it. So that has to be. Other thing, make noise. Whenever something goes wrong, make a noise. Make a noise so that the roof comes down, everybody feels. Oh, what will happen? You'll be penalized. You won't be penalized because you're right. 2 Acinetobacter in an ICU, make a noise. Make a lot of noise. What will happen? Everybody will start looking at, yes, there is a concern, why it happened. So make a noise whenever there is an issue. Updating, there is no issues at all. Every side gives. And also there are a lot of, helplines which will help you. Like we are going to set up, we are going to reformat our whole course to make it more friendly, more interactive, more knowledgeable. I had actually thought of getting, in touch with and getting queries for themselves, because all this is nowhere they sit and do this way in a constrained settings. Right. So the best way is experience, apply basic principles of what you have learned in your school days. Don't have a difference between what you know and what you can do. How to adapt that whole system into place. If you really make it well, I'm sure there's good. And you stick by it. If you're right, and if somebody is doing wrong, you stick by it, I'm sure you won't be penalized, because ultimately you are saving your patient. Other thing, the best way to, understand that you're going to do right all the time, imagine that patient to be your relative. How will you want it to be done? So if you do that, I'm sure everybody will start looking at how I can do better. I'm sure if my mother gets admitted, I will look at 101 things, whether everything is going right before I do. Then why can't we do for every patient? I think we have to do that.
Right, Dr. Ratna. I think you've brought in the right point. Patient safety is actually the core of entire medicine that we talk about. I don't want to be ionic and go back to the Hippocratic Oath, but patient safety is supposed to be the center of it. And I think the topic that we're discussing today is so very crucial to maintain his safety. Forget about the saving of the life, but not to cause more harm, or if there is a chance to save the patient, the superimposed infections shouldn't lead to any fatalities. I think the safety of the patient should be the core concern of us. So wherever we are in the healthcare setting, Dr. Ratna, now you've been a very you've been involved with this for like 25 years is a long time. You've seen many people working in the healthcare setting at different levels and being in different titles and everything. So our viewers could be contemplating, like, should I be doing it, being a nurse myself or being a physiotherapist myself, or somebody could be viewing it as a clinician, like, do I really need to do it? Let me see what Dr. Ratna has to say. You've made it very clear that every healthcare worker has to be updated. So in case if somebody is interested in taking up our program, we are doing a 1-month training program on infection control with which you're very closely associated. And you've also started mentioning about revamping and improvising the content for a new program that you're going to do with. Can you just share some details about what this 1-month training program of infection control? We do a certificate course in infection control at Medvarsity, as you know. Can you talk a little bit about what this program involves, what the students or any prospects can expect getting out of this?
I feel any knowledge, any certification which you can undergo is the best, because it is updating yourself, you relearn yourself of what is being happening. What we do here is giving you basic information of how to make yourself safe and also the patient safe, because you're working in a very crucial area. And also with this scenario of antibiotic resistance, you get updated on basic methods in this one month program. You have a certification at the end of it. At the end of the day, you need to have some certification to tell you, yes, you have gone through a course, you have passed a course, you have done some amount of spade work in getting the knowledge in and doing some homework on it. So certification is a good method to make it work. So this is a short 1 month, goes by very fast, I think. So if any person wants to get certified by this method, it's the best way, because it's one way of showing yourself that you have updated yourself. You have gone through a process which will help you in, showing yourself how, yes, I am knowledgeable. I have a better way of dealing with the patients. So these are things which will be helping you out in a certification course. And in the days to come, we are really looking at how to revamp the whole thing and make it very, very interesting, and doing an evaluation for how to make you also part of interactive sessions. And I think there are any number of questions every healthcare worker will have in terms of when they work at day level. So we will be opening up portals where you can ask questions to us and get things going, clarify yourself, because I feel awareness and making it known to everybody and learning process from others is the greatest way of educating ourselves, updating ourselves, and coming out of a difficult situation.
Yes, Dr. Ratna, thank you for saying that. And also, may I mention, now you also part of a corporate healthcare setting, and in any healthcare, I think the continuing medical education CMEs are all part of every clinician's life. But other than that, every healthcare worker also needs to be updated continuously. It goes on for lifetime, I believe. So having a certification, it's not about the certificate, but if you have upgraded your knowledge, learned something new, gotten better in something, I think that also gives a better place and position in the place you're working also, that you've made an effort to upgrade yourself. I think that creates a lot of difference. I'm sure that is considered in a positive way. So if there's anybody contemplating why should we be doing it, as Dr. Ratna has mentioned, how the patient safety is important, how it is important to prevent the hospital-acquired infections, how the inaction can cause great consequences, and how all of us need to work at it as if we are responsible for it, or rather saying, I am responsible and I can make a difference. That's one way of looking at it. The other way is, I understand many of us are busy and working professionals in some healthcare system, in some title or designation. It doesn't matter. This is an online blended learning program. So all you have to do is go through the online modules. The content is put together by experts like the one you're seeing right now, who have their strong opinion about the course and program, and we're trying to make it better by the changes that we're going to bring in. So it's only going to get better, and it's a flexible option. You can still be continuing to work and get yourselves upgraded. At the end of, as Dr. Ratna said, 1 month goes by really fast, and at the end of it, you have something to look at, that you've gained knowledge. More than the certificate, I think the feeling of being upgraded about this topic should be exciting us to join the program. So that would be one reason to look at it. And if there's anybody who has more queries and concerns, as Dr. Ratna has said, please feel free. For now, you can write to Medvarsity. We'll be happy to forward your relevant questions to her for guidance, or if there's anything course-related that we can help with, or for the new advancements that we're doing, my team would be glad to answer your queries. So Dr. Ratna will take up some questions from the participants now. It should be a interactive session. So there's Dr. Elizabeth here in the chat box. There's Brenda, Sanjay, and Rajshekhar. Hello, everybody. If there's any question that you would like to ask, anything about infection control or the program or anything, please go on and type in the chat box. We'll be happy to answer your queries. For now, I don't see any questions, but for all the participants, please post in your questions. And there's Dr. Narsimha Rao. There's Dr. Ratnamani, Mr. Lokesh. Anybody who has a question? I see someone writing, we are waiting. Now that we've come and finished the discussion, we're also waiting for questions. Is anything that you guys want to ask? So Dr. Ratna, before, yeah. Oh, Lokesh has actually said bye-bye to you. He said, good evening, thanks for a wonderful session. Thank you so much. But before we close, Dr. Ratna, I'm sure there will be more queries and questions as they go back and ponder about it. And now the session, when it will go on YouTube and people will repeatedly view it, I'm sure there will be many questions. There's a query by Mr. Lokesh. You can look into the chat box also, Dr. Ratna. It says, I have a query and I shall share my experiences about course certification in infection control. Fine, I don't know what he means. He says he has some experiences that he wants to share. Good. Dr. Ratna, before we close on, if there's anybody who will again come back to view the session, would you want to address the importance and the need for doing this course, or why should they be doing it in a brief? Just give them an idea about what is it that they get to learn in this program in the 1 month at least, what they can go back with. Take back the message.
I always feel that, we must be able to.
I'm sorry, Dr. Ratna, there's an interesting input by Mr. Lokesh. We'll read that and I'll come back to you. He says, we have observed that many nurses who completed the certificate in infection control course have got accepted and accredited in NABH as infection control nurse, which is wonderful.
Oh, very nice. I know it makes a lot of difference to have certification, right?
In their documentation and audits have passed. So that's great news, Dr. Ratna. I think one way all of us want to invest in anything, be it money or our time or anything, is to see some result out of it, at the end of it, to see a better place to work or in a better position to work. Of course, that's always there. So it's a good thing that, thank you so much, Mr. Lokesh, for making an effort in writing it down. Of course, NABH is a big thing to discuss, isn't it?
I want to tell you about it, that, it is mandatory that it's like a blessing in disguise that we have now NABH coming in and people are opting for that thing. Now, again, my request is don't make it a paper only. Make it implementable, because it's very important to have an implementable program in the system. Because ultimately, what are we looking at? A patient at the back of our mind, at the back of our course. It's a patient whom we are going to do better, right? So It is very important to realize that we need to implement things, not learn and put it in paper and accredit it and produce a document, please. Because we are not here for that. We are here to make it work at the ground level and make it happen. And I always feel that any course or any interaction or any outcome which I expect from any course is, will I be able to do better when I am at work? Can I deliver what I have learned? And how can I do it better? So if I can able to generate that interest in every person who goes back through a course through us, I have done a great job. Even if I have saved one patient in my career, when I help him out in giving delivery to, knowledge about it, how to do it, I have done a great job, I feel. And I feel we will get motivated, because there are so many examples which we will be giving through the course, where we will make you understand that we are a huge partner in saving lives. and giving it a good safety for the patients. And it is our being in a noble profession like healthcare, we must do justice to what we have come in for. And I think all of us at the end of the day will be having a good sleep only if we deliver good care. So I think that's the take home message, the way to do and do it well.
Very well said, Dr. Ratna. I think the satisfaction should be in how we've gotten better and what a difference we've made, even if it is to one patient or one case. That shouldn't matter, of course. But like any students or any prospects who would come to do a program, of course, this involves a lot of patient safety. Of course, there's that side to it. But also, like Mr. Lokesh mentioned, and like you've been mentioning, you're a part of healthcare setting. I'm sure upgrading and upskilling yourselves in key areas will definitely make a difference in the department that you work or the healthcare setting that you work. Definitely that will be reflected. But more than that, as you've mentioned, if you're more confident in dealing with the patients, if safety is maintained, I think that will also be appreciated, and definitely that will take you to places. So thank you, Mr. Lokesh, for typing this in. Thank you so much. For all the other participants, for any more queries, please write to Medvarsity. We'll be happy to guide you or connect you to Dr. Ratna or our team here. And we'll want to see a lot of you in the course and program trying to learn the things that Dr. Ratna has just mentioned about. Also, let me close by saying the program that we're running right now is a 1-month program, the certificate course in infection control for healthcare professionals. Any healthcare worker presently a part of a healthcare setting or who shall be part of a healthcare setting or who's looking at that can definitely come and join. It's a 1-month program and an online learning program. So it's flexible enough. Please feel free to contact our team to join the course. And I'm sure with inputs and ideas from experts like Dr. Ratna, we'll be able to better the program in the days to come. We'll give you more details on that once some structure is finalized. So thank you so much, Dr. Ratna, for your valuable time.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you again. Bye, guys.